last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge.
Greetings, this is Darth Vader here, and I would be honored if you would join me as we explore how my fate and the fate of the entire galaxy would have changed if Palpatine had exposed himself as the Sith Lord from the very beginning. Let's go back to his time under Darth Plagueis. He begins to question the validity of the Sith Grand Plan and the Rule of Two. He believes that there are too many risks in hiding in the shadows from the galaxy, and Palpatine would rather instead convince the galaxy that Sith philosophy is superior to Jedi philosophy, because if he can do that, then the galaxy will willingly surrender to Sith rule rather than fight against it. So he begins working in the Senate to work with a series of religious tolerance laws that get passed that make it illegal to challenge someone or threaten them simply for expressing a different religious view than you do. This is well received in the Senate, and Palpatine is seen as a proponent and an advocate of tolerance and peace throughout the galaxy. Of course, Valorum is still the chancellor at this time, but that is nothing that a force choke or poisoning his breakfast couldn't solve. So Palpatine gets elected as the next Supreme Chancellor, and his first official act is to pardon the Separatists and allow the Confederacy of Independent Systems to leave from the Republic peacefully. Again, this strengthens Palpatine's positive public image that he's trying to make the galaxy a better place. He also sends the Coruscant Guard to clean up the lower levels of Coruscant and make it safer for the poor people to live there, and he sends his forces to go crush slavery in the Outer Rim, allowing more and more people to come behind Palpatine and believe him to be a great ruler. He puts the icing on the cake of his positive political image by freeing me from slavery and taking me to the Jedi Order, where he attempts to convince the counselors to let me into the Jedi Order. Now, obviously, in this reality, because this is not Qui-Gon's dying wish, the Jedi have no reason to allow this, and Yoda, being the sociopathic goblin demon frogman, obviously turns me down. But again, Palpatine was counting on this, because it puts a bad taste in my mouth against the Jedi, and he secretly takes me and adopts me as his own grandson and secretly trains me in the ways of the Force as the next Sith Lord. Now, Qui-Gon saw how badly they treated a poor slave boy from Tatooine, and he basically tells the Jedi Order to piss off and that he's going to go start his own order. He gathers Obi-Wan, and they all go to Dantooine, where all of the Jedi that had a problem with the Jedi Order are allowed to consolidate there and pretty much just live in peace and go on vigilante missions here and there, rescuing people, but not done under the official name of the Jedi Order. Meanwhile, back in the Galactic Republic, the entire Senate is eating out of Palpatine's hands. They love this guy. He is seen as the most benevolent, nice grandfather in the world, and I am there to support his public image. I give testimony of how well he's treating me, and that is when he decides to drop a bomb on the galaxy. He reveals himself to be a Sith Lord. Now, Yoda gets out his lightsaber and charges at Palpatine, but then Palpatine, with a force push, sends him away and says, "Look at the Jedi. Look how violent they are." Now, when this happens, the Coruscant Guard are about to arrest Yoda, but then Palpatine motions for them to let him have his say. So a debate stage is prepared where Palpatine and Yoda debate the merits of being a Jedi versus being a Sith Lord. Now, of course, Palpatine hates the Jedi and wants them dead. However, he feels as though if he can let the Jedi hang themselves by explaining their philosophy and making them look bad, that he would be able to more easily get them thrown out of the galaxy. So Palpatine begins by questioning Yoda on how Jedi see the Force, and Yoda gives his token answer that the Force surrounds us and binds us and penetrates us. However, Palpatine then replies and says, "Well, you Jedi view the Force as a natural phenomenon, like the weather, something you cannot control. We the Sith view the Force as a resource that can be harnessed for the betterment of yourself and those around you. Take the Force, for example. You can use it to kill a bad guy, and that saves people's lives. Are you Jedi against that?" And Yoda really has no response for that. He says, "Kill sometimes we must, but not always. And that's when Palpatine responds by telling everybody, I really don't know what Yoda just said at the end of that sentence, and I don't think he does either. So they begin to debate further about the merits of being a Jedi versus a Sith Lord, and Palpatine really starts hammering home the fact that the Jedi sit in the Senate, they sit in the temple on Coruscant, collecting trillions of credits, but did nothing to crush slavery in the Outer Realms. The Sith did that. They did nothing to make Coruscant a safer place to live. The Sith did that. How all they do is just sit there meditating and not getting much of anything done. And the crowd starts to take Palpatine's side. That is when Yoda tries to explain that they are waiting on the will of the Force to know what to do next. And Palpatine says, while you guys are sitting in your chambers meditating, people are dying and you do nothing about it. And the crowd just uproariously applauds Palpatine for saying this. And then they get down to the matter of how people are recruited into the Jedi Order, and that is when Yoda admits that they take children from their parents. The crowd gasps in horror as they hear this, and Palpatine says, see, on the Sith side, we recruit people willingly, but on your side, you take children from their parents. And in Yoda's closing statement, he tries to defend himself, but literally everyone's booing him so hard that he can't get his words out. When it's Palpatine's time for his closing statement, he says to the galaxy that the Jedi sit here absorbing trillions of credits and doing nothing good for the galaxy. They kidnap children from their homes, hand them weapons, and teach them that it's not okay to love, yet somehow we Sith are the bad guys? And then he proposes that the galaxy should ban the Jedi Order. And that is met with uproarious applause, and at that point, the Jedi Order gets shut down and disbanded. All the younglings get sent to different jobs throughout Coruscant to work in civil service. That is when Mace Windu and Yoda, the two leaders of the Jedi Order, get convicted for child trafficking and sentenced to 500 years in federal prison. Of course, because they're Jedi, they manage to break out, but they get gunned down on the way out trying to escape. Then I become Palpatine's right-hand man in the galaxy. I almost take on a prince characteristic. I become his heir apparent to his throne because he adopted me officially as his grandson and trained me in the ways of the Force. So I am his political assistant by day and his Sith assistant by night, cracking down on those that would disrupt our rise to power. Obviously, Maul takes great exception with being cast aside as the heir to the Sith throne, so he kidnaps Padme and lures me to Mustafar to fight him, and this clearly does not go very well for him at all, and Palpatine lands on Mustafar and finds it hilarious what I did to Maul, so we basically officially retire from having to crush rebellion because the entire galaxy at this point willingly bends to our will as Sith Lords because they view us as better, and the Jedi are widely hated across the galaxy, executing the Sith grand plan without the need for a galactic civil war, an expensive clone army, or me getting turned into a burnt bucket of crispy chicken on Mustafar. Padme and I go out on double dates with Palpatine and whatever the hell that bald thing is. We pretty much roast her the entire time, and it hurts her feelings, but then Palpatine tries to calm it down. But at the end of the day, I have the love of my life, I have a billionaire genius philanthropist grandfather, and I get to kill bad guys whenever it comes across my plate to do so. The galaxy prospers and flourishes under the rule of the Sith, with Palpatine handling things politically and me being the head of the military. However, unfortunately for Palpatine, because he's devoted to the dark side, he's not able to find a way to extend his life or gain immortality, because the one downside to Sith philosophy is that the dark side doesn't give life, it only takes it away. So he never finds a way to become immortal, he never perfects Exon's transfer, and he dies anyway, leaving the Skywalker family as the true rulers of the galaxy. And that is the real rise of Skywalker. Last but not least, Kit Fisto dies of food poisoning. And that is what would happen if Palpatine had openly ruled as a Sith from the very beginning. Let me know what you think in the comments below.